Hi, I'm Mike Miller. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks so much for watching. My guest today is a narrative photographer, recently completed her MFA at TWU, and I'm honored to have Kristina Smith. Kristina, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I noticed your art at Jupiter House for a number of months, and you have a very interesting concept going on, I think.
Thank you.
When did you really first start doing photography?
Well, I started shooting photographs as a child. Like, I was given a camera by my grandmother, I think maybe for my 13th or 14th birthday.
Yeah.
So I started shooting around then, and when I started college, I went to Youngstown State University in Youngstown, Ohio, and I thought I was going to be a biologist. I started studying.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted to study bird behavior, and I thought I would be an ornithologist, or I was taking lots of classes in biology and psychology and some art classes, because I had taken art all through high school and really enjoyed it. In my first photography class, I just really fell in love with, and started taking more of them, and finally just changed my major to photography.
That was at TW?
No, that was at Youngstown State.
Oh, okay.
Back in Ohio, where I'm from.
Yeah, that's where you got your bachelor's degree.
That's where I got my bachelor's.
Yeah.
And then I completed my BFA in photography and ceramics, and waited a few years and had some sort of life changes happen, and I decided, you know what, I think I need to make a change. And I applied to graduate schools, and all of my friends that had applied to graduate schools, like, no one had really had a positive experience, like,
Really?
getting in, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I'll just apply to like 8 schools, and maybe like one will choose me, and I'll just go there. And I was really not prepared for more than one school, let alone like 5, to be like, oh, we want you. And I was like, oh, okay, what do I do now? You know?
That's great.
And I called up my mentor, and she was telling me, well, you know, like, based on like you and your work, like, I would pick like one of like these 3 schools. And I was like, okay, well, you know, TWU had always been my top choice, and that's like where my mentor, Kelly Connell, where she had went. She actually went to UNT for her undergrad, and TWU for her master's.
When you were working on your BFA up north, you had heard of Denton and TWU.
Yeah, because
really,
my teacher, Kelly Connell, she had graduated from TWU, and then Youngstown State was her first teaching job.
Really?
After graduate school.
I've never been up there.
Well, it's on the Rust Belt. It used to be a really bustling steel town. And,
Oh, really?
We've kind of been in a recession since the 70s.
Steel mills.
Anyway, so
Some of that still goes on up there, I guess.
yeah, there's
A lot of it, yeah.
still a lot of steel production, not the amount that there was.
Yeah.
And really, the city itself has really shrunk. It's,
Really?
one of the, if you look at there's a lot of writings on like the Rust Belt and shrinking cities.
Yeah.
Youngstown had a plan to like start to condense the cities and focus on viable neighborhoods and closed neighborhoods that weren't so viable, and like shut off power and electric and water, like once all the residents had moved out.
Oh, really?
And then just let the land go back to wild. And they're still sort of working on that, but
Well, that's good in a lot of ways.
anyway, so I've been in
Yeah.
Texas since 2010.
Ceramics, though, that's interesting. I didn't know that you had a background in that as well.
Yeah, I love ceramics.
It seems like there's so many color combinations, and
Yeah, porcelain sculpture is really my
oh, really?
favorite.
Yeah.
And I'm doing an installation in May at the Cliff Gallery on Mountain View College's campus in Oak Cliff.
Really, that's good.
And I'm going to have some porcelain pieces with photographs in them. So trying to incorporate my 2 loves.
Yeah, that's good. It takes a lot of creative thought to blend all of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot of creative thought and a lot of courage and fear.
And you've done a lot of giving back to the community. You've been a teacher while you were working on your master's, and
Yes.
you teach at various universities and college even now. Yeah.
Yeah, I love teaching. It's really a passion of mine. I'm applying to full-time jobs, and had a phone interview last week, so fingers crossed. But I'm currently teaching at 3 different universities throughout the DFW area. It's a lot of work, but it's really it gives a lot back.
Yeah. What are some of the questions that people have when they're first learning about photography, that what's most confusing to them?
I think the first misconception, especially with digital technology, like a lot of folks tend to think that you just like take a picture, you just like that's all there is to it. Like
Yeah.
you just like pick up a camera and just start like clicking the shutter, and then you have this like amazing product. And we try to like talk more about like the conceptual development, but also like technical development, and try to have the form and content come together.
Yeah. Like a way of balancing an object in a cropping something, more or less like you do on a computer.
Right, like how you can use like your aperture and your shutter speeds to get different effects.
Yeah.
How to shoot manual, and also how to make that, how to work with that image on the computer to get to really showcase your artistic vision, and then how to get that off of the computer and into a print. And it's usually not as easy as just hitting print and it coming out perfect. Sometimes you have to go back 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
To get it to really say what you're wanting to say. And sometimes you have to reshoot, and I think that can be really difficult for students. Like we have this really like instant gratification. We want things to look to be good the first time around, and sometimes we have to work with it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I always tell them that I have more breakdowns than breakthroughs, and you just have to like keep moving forward.
It takes a lot of hundreds of photographs to get just a few good ones sometimes, I guess.
Oh, totally.
That was always so confusing to me about those F numbers and things like that. I don't know, but that's not such
the
a...
F-stops?
Yeah, is that still an issue with the digital world?
Yeah, we still work with, the f-stops and shutter speeds, and I think it can be a little confusing, especially when the beginning of the semester starts and I start talking like photographic jargon, like, oh, if you have this at f1.8, it'll look like, but they start to understand like.
The bigger the number,
terminology.
it's more for a darker situation, or is it the opposite?
Well, the bigger, so like the aperture and the f-stop, it's the same thing. It has to deal with the size of the lens opening, and it works just like the iris of your eye.
Yeah.
So if you think of your iris, like if you're in a really dark room, it's going to expand to allow the most light in.
Yeah.
But if you turn the light on, your eye is going to constrict again. So like that f22 would be that really small number, and you have a really great depth of field. So you can have really fine focus, like into infinity.
Oh,
like
really?
the foreground, middle ground, and background can all be sharp. But
with a higher F number?
but it lets in less light.
Okay.
So there's some give and take.
Yeah.
With it opened up all the way, you can let in lots of light, but then you have a really shallow depth of field. Like usually only the foreground will be in focus, and everything else will be really soft.
Yeah.
A lot of my photographs really incorporate that shallow depth of field technique.
Yeah. You mainly photograph indoors? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my last body of work, Evidence of Existence, it was almost every photograph from it was shot in my grandfather's home. It had been vacant for about 6 years.
Really?
At the point that I had photographed in it, and it's still in the family, and I try to go back once or twice a year. Sometimes I get to shoot, and sometimes I don't. But it was really sort of surreal. Like when I had moved to Texas, maybe a week or two before, we had an estate sale, and it was, I had gone through like all of my grandfather's things and like selling them to people, and it was really it was really like a heartbreaking experience.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I had actually my first project in graduate school referenced that, and I have some images that we can look at if you want. Anyway, but so
Evidence of Existence you did in 2013.
yes.
And then 2012 you had By Way of Something.
Yeah, By Way of Something was an investigation into the ways of seeing things in a new light.
Oh, really?
After you have sort of a traumatic event, like sometimes you can have a new set of lenses.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to travel abroad for an art history trip, and I went to Italy for the first time, and it was just really amazing. And
I'm sure.
I felt like, and it was after like a really long-term relationship that I was in had ended, and it was like I had woken up from like a really long sleep, and I was like figuring out how things looked again. Like, wow, I've never seen that shade of green before. That's weird, you know. But I think all my work is really rooted in relationships and family and place.
Well, I think a lot of great artists and writers have done that, you know, and that's something that you know as yourself. And
Yeah.
and when you were a kid, were there certain photographers who were your favorites, or you just liked certain kinds of photography?
When I was a kid, I thought that National Geographic was the best thing on the planet, and I would, cut up all these magazines.
Really?
And I didn't know who they were at the time, but I think I was really more interested in being able to travel to these places and see these things.
Yeah.
And then currently, I have my favorite artists that I look at for inspiration and that I network with. And I always think about my photo heroes, whenever I'm back up against a wall,
Really?
And I always think okay, well, what would Cindy Sherman do? What would Andre Serrano do? I try to think of courage in the studio.
That's right.
And just keep moving forward.
I know it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to look at how successful people think, I have to try to understand how they think and try to figure that. I've done that many times, unsuccessfully, I guess.
Yeah.
Love and Loss was one of your earlier works.
Yeah, Love and Loss was a stem from my Bachelor of Fine Arts exhibition.
Really?
My graduating thesis show from undergraduate. It was Love, Loss, and What Remains, the things I couldn't say aloud. And it was also dealing with relationships and heartbreak, but also the confluence of memory, these, you have to, there's this duality of life. You have, great love, but it also comes with a price. There's always a give and take.
How did you begin to capture that and portray that in photography?
Well, I shoot a lot.
Yeah.
I shoot with a Hasselblad 500 CM, so I still shoot film.
Yeah.
Mostly, and then I shoot film or digital for commercial things or freelancing, or sometimes test shots. I'm actually working more with digital now just because I tend to not have as much money to spend on film processing.
That is
these
expensive.
Days. Right.
Film is really expensive.
It does. It gets really expensive, and you have to drive to Dallas and drop it off and wait, and then scan it or find someone to scan it for me because I don't have access to the printers or the really nice scanner anymore. So I'm not in graduate school. But I'm sorry, what was the question again?
I forgot.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But you've been in a number of galleries, the 500X gallery.
Right. I've really been working on my exhibition record.
Yeah.
I've had a number of solo exhibitions and two-person exhibitions, a number of group and juried exhibitions. I think I had 2 solo shows last year and maybe 16 or 17 group shows.
Oh, really?
that my work was featured in.
I noticed you had a show at Ruston, Louisiana.
Yeah, I just got a piece back from there.
Really?
For the Louisiana Purchase. They have a biennial exhibition,
Yeah.
so it's every 2 years. And the entry fee to there's a small entry fee, and it goes towards student scholarships.
That's good.
It's very similar to the Joyce Lane Grant exhibition that we have at TWU.
Oh, really?
It's also a juried exhibition, and the winner, well, whoever the juror, there's usually a great jurors from, museum curators and really big players in the field. But they'll choose usually one artist to have a solo exhibition the following year, and then all of the money goes to student scholarships. And I was lucky enough to get one of those scholarships as a graduate student, so it's a really good cause.
The Louisiana Purchase project, though, is that something they do annually or?
It's a biennial.
Biannual.
So it's every 2 years. And Frank Hamrick at Louisiana Tech University, he had spearheaded that
Really?
exhibition.
How many photographs did you have in that exhibit?
I had 2.
Really?
2 pieces, Waiting for the Return, and Some Things Were Unclear.
Oh, is that right? And those are on your website?
Yes.
Yeah. People could enter that contest, though, from all over the country or all over the world, yeah.
Yeah. Regional, national, international submissions.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you get to mix with that many different people, and you've exhibited in San Francisco as well sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to really, have some local stuff happening,
Yeah.
some regional stuff happening, but also thinking nationally and internationally. The world is so small, you want to build those networks.
The internet is an amazing tool, I guess.
It really is.
It allows us to research all around the world and vice versa. People find us.
Yeah, it's 7 degrees of separation, It's really funny with the internet.
You brought some
Oh, yeah. I brought
pictures
some,
and things.
I brought some prints. I just got back from a conference in New Orleans, so pardon me if these are a little bit out of order.
Oh, sure. Well, you do stay busy.
Well,
New Orleans is a fun place to travel to.
it was my first time going there.
Really? I bet you really enjoyed it.
I had a really great time. I'm probably making a big old mess.
What's the name of this one?
This one's Matriarchs.
Okay.
And this is one of the only photographs that wasn't shot in my grandfather's house.
Oh, really?
This was photographed at my aunt's house. So all of my work really references memory and family stories.
Yeah.
And most of the work has been focused on my dad's side of the family.
Really?
And that's where I have more questions.
Yeah.
I guess about family stories and the truth in things, and
I know what you mean about that.
what things have been covered
The
up.
videos,
and
did you
whatnot.
shoot those at that house too? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Should I flip through these or not?
That's an interesting one too. But each one is very impactful. I enjoyed seeing your work there at Jupiter House when I'd be in there having coffee, and it was there for several weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah. I want to say it was up for a month and a half.
A month and a half. Yeah.
A friend of mine has just been put in charge of the gallery there. And,
oh, really?
She called me up right away and was like, "Hey, I really want to have some good work up over the holidays. Do you have anything do you think you could fill this whole space?" And I'm like, "Do you know how much art I have in my house right now? Like, it's sort of falling out the windows. Like, of course."
You have a lot of things framed.
Yeah,
it takes time.
It takes time. It takes money, and then it takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
Like, it just
When
crazy.
you don't have them hanging, where do you store them?
I have a really big closet.
Yeah.
When people come over, I kind of joke. I'm like, "Well, this is my thesis work and all my stuff from graduate school that I haven't gone through yet that are every time I move, I just kind of box things up, and I'm like, I'll deal with it later.
But you do have to keep it for sure, because it can all be turned into more
Right.
prints, reprints, and all that. What is the, I wondered about the meaning of this.
Of this one?
Yeah.
This one's titled Waiting for the Return.
Okay.
And in all the work, referencing different family members and specific family stories. For this photograph, so they're all staged narratives, and I'm acting out what I imagine would be my paternal grandmother, maybe like waiting for her love to come back from war. So everything is sort of set in this very like 1940s, like post-World War II time period. I'm sorry.
I bet you do feel like you're in the past when you're in there in that house.
Oh my God, it was like the most surreal experience. Like
you were there
being
as a
in that
kid.
house. Yeah, and I spent like most of my childhood there.
Really?
Because my parents worked a lot, so
Yeah.
like my grandparents were always watching me, and I had the most questions about my grandmother.
Yeah.
Because she had passed when my dad was not quite 2 years old yet.
Oh yeah.
So everything I knew about her, I knew through other people's reflections on her,
Yeah.
or just through photographs themselves. And I would try to like imagine like what her voice would sound like, or how tall she was, or like what her personality was like. And it was really sort of strange. Like I found this one photograph, and she was like standing over the stove, and she had her hand kind of like on her hip, and she was holding like an RC Cola in one hand and like a cigarette in the other, and like I've noticed that like I make this like sort of like same gesture a lot.
Yeah.
And you know she had passed away in the 50s. Like,
Yeah.
So I've obviously
In your video, you had
before
that.
my life period. Right. It's very.
I see how that's meaningful to you.
Yeah, like these sort of familial traits that get passed on.
Yeah.
Even without the presence of the person
Oh,
like
sure.
there.
Yeah. What is this one, though?
This one, this is a drain in the bathroom. It's the bathroom sink.
I know that, but I mean, what did that represent?
What did it represent to me? Well, this is my favorite color. This really,
It is nice.
This really nice teal thing, and I've been obsessed with this color for like years.
Really?
And had no idea why.
Yeah.
And when we had cleared out my grandfather's home, like the first time I came back, it was the first time I'd seen it empty.
Oh, yeah.
With, just
the furniture
really,
gone.
really minimal things left.
Yeah.
And I was really struck by like how much of this blue was all over the house.
Oh, really?
Like my father's like bedroom, like his childhood bedroom was like this color, like the bathroom sink was this color, like all these details all over the house were this color, and I had like never seen them before, or had never like, I guess, acknowledged their presence. So
It was camouflaged with so much furniture, I guess. And
yeah, all these like other things that you look at.
Yeah. That was the base of life, more or less, the blue color.
Yeah. I think this one's titled Evidence Remains, but I think how there's always like some sort of trace. I think this work is really universal in that kind of way. Every person has like every family has like family stories and family secrets that they don't talk about.
Yeah.
That they wish that didn't exist.
That's what I thought about when I looked at your photography. I knew I could relate to it. I thought everybody has questions about their family's past. What their personality. My great grandfather. I wondered about him so much.
I really wanted to, in this work.
What is that title?
This one is The Addition.
Okay.
And this is like there's a line, and this is an addition that was put onto the house.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's also kind of a play on words, because like there's an organ, and it's kind of like the audition.
Yeah.
If you were playing.
Do you play music also?
Not very well.
But you enjoy it some?
I enjoy it. I like to sort of mess around on some instruments.
That's good.
I wouldn't play it in front of anyone though. I used to sing a lot, but
Oh, really?
I'm much too shy to do that in front of people without other people singing with me. But in this work, like, I really wanted to draw the viewer in and kind of like seduce them with this color palette and this light quality. We have this really great like northern light, just being in Northeast Ohio. But also, like, once like the viewer is kind of sucked in, I also kind of want to like punch you in the gut a little bit.
I think you're effective in that. That's how I felt about your photography.
Thank you.
That's really good contrast.
I don't remember the title on this one.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry. This one's Runaway. And
Runaway.
it's referencing another family story that I had heard about as a child.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What is the fan in this
This is the breezeway.
breezeway?
Like, coming in, and the house, like, my grandfather had built, but you know, some things maybe like weren't kept up as well over the years.
Yeah.
And were really deteriorating and just like rotting. And the breezeway was one of the things that were just like really rotting. But we were just using it as storage.
Yeah.
There used to be like a glider here and like a fridge where like he would keep like sweets.
Oh, really?
And then there were always like windows, and like the cat and dog would sit out there.
Yeah. And this one?
This one's The Calm After the Storm.
Oh, okay, okay. Again, the blue color.
Right.
I hadn't noticed that so much before.
I try to keep a like colors that sort of come back up over and over again.
Yeah.
Kind of referencing like really like symbols and metaphor in the work.
The best way for people to get in touch with you is your website.
Right. My website, it's KristinaSmithFineArt.com.
Okay.
You can also message me on Facebook or Instagram or email, KristinaSmithPhoto@gmail.com.
I really appreciate you coming to do the show today.
Well, it's been a blast.
Thank you so much. And thanks for watching. Have a great day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.